In September 1939, Nazi Germany unleashed a devastating new war-fighting tactic that plunged Europe into the horror of World War II. How was it possible for Adolf Hitler's recently created army to roll across Europe almost unchecked? What combination of events, new technology, strategy, and personalities led to the series of rapid victories over unprepared and seemingly outclassed opponents? When Adolf Hitler seized power in 1932, he inherited a nearly bankrupt country that had been stripped of its military power and had lost vast expanses of its border territory as punishment for its role in the First World War. Germany's industry also lay in ruins. Declaring he would rebuild Germany and return its former glory, Hitler embarked on a program of rearmament and military industrialization in open defiance of international treaty agreements. After only 5 years, the German army had grown from a mere 100,000 men to more than 4 million. As tanks and aircraft poured out of German factories and ships and submarines emerged from shipyards, Hitler began demanding the return of Germany's lost territories, but always insisted he wanted only fair treatment for Germany, not war. However, Adolf Hitler and his generals had developed a grand strategy, a military strategy that they believed would allow Germany to wreak havoc on its neighbors. This strategy became known as BLITZKRIEG, Lightning War. Unlike the endless trench battles of World War I, Blitzkrieg would use tanks and dive bombers to secure enemy territory, driving through the enemy's frontline troops and breaking the defending armies into pockets that could then be surrounded and destroyed. Command of the air would be secured by swarms of German fighter aircraft and surprise attacks on enemy airfields. Population centers would then be terror bombed by German Heinkels and Dorniers. German tanks, or panzers as they were known, supported by artillery and dive bombers, would concentrate on destroying communication centers, such as rail yards and major road junctions. These quick, successive, unexpected, and devastating blows were specifically designed to bring an enemy to its knees in a matter of days. Through political manipulation, private threats, and public displays of his ever-increasing military power, Adolf Hitler had managed to coerce Europe into surrendering Germany's lost territories without a shot being fired. In the same manner, the politically weak nations of Austria and Czechoslovakia were incorporated into the German Reich. Fears of reigniting the horrors of the First World War kept Britain, France, and Soviet Russia from intervening, as Hitler reshaped Central Europe to suit his own personal vision. But when Hitler invaded his eastern neighbor, Poland, the new German army and its radical concept of Blitzkrieg warfare were put to the test. Poland fought back furiously, attacking German tanks with tragically outmoded equipment and tactics. Poland's aircraft and tank units were lost before they could mount an effective defense. In just 28 days, Poland was cut to ribbons. Poland was now part of the Nazi Empire, its people hauled away to forced labor camps, and its industry commandeered to manufacture weapons for Hitler's expanding army. Despite having threatened reprisals if Hitler intervened in Polish affairs, England and France did nothing. A triumphant Hitler openly mocked France and England. He called their ambassadors worms and their leaders frightened old women. 3 days after the invasion of Poland, the governments of Britain and France had declared war on Germany, but stood idly by as Poland was destroyed. Hitler knew that France, for all its military power, did not have the will to fight. But England, with the most powerful navy in the world, was a different matter. The best Hitler could hope for was that Britain would do the same thing when German tanks rolled into France as they had when Germany overran Austria and Czechoslovakia and destroyed Poland. Absolutely nothing. But as Adolf Hitler and his high command began plotting the invasion of France, they were temporarily distracted by threatening developments in Scandinavia. The Finns were fighting back a Russian invasion, and Hitler feared that France and Britain would aid the Finns by entering the Baltic. Resources, Germany relied on Sweden to supply 2/3 of its iron ore, most of which was shipped through Norwegian ports. By late 1939, it had become apparent to France and Great Britain that if Germany's supply of raw materials could be cut, it would seriously damage Hitler's war machine. The key to cutting off German ore supplies was blockading the entrance to the Baltic Sea. If the 100-mile wide stretch of open water separating Norway from Denmark could be effectively blockaded, Germany would be isolated, and with luck, the German naval fleet could be trapped inside the Baltic. When Hitler learned of British plans, he knew that he had to move fast or face a disaster. The General Staff began devising their own strategy to counter the British and French. The operation would depend not only on keeping the British away from Norway, but also on capturing Denmark, which stood between Norway and Germany and guarded the southern edge of the Baltic Passage. Only prevented from immediate action by fear of angering the Soviet Union, which had long wanted a foothold in Scandinavia, Hitler's opportunity came when Russia invaded Finland in November 1939. A mutual non-aggression pact between Russia and Germany guaranteed that they would respect each other's territory. And when Hitler conveniently made no objection to Russia overrunning Finland, it opened the door for Germany to make a similar move against Norway. Norway itself was politically neutral and too weak to stop an invasion from either the British or the Germans. But fearing Nazi reprisals if they appeared to side with the British, the Norwegian government strenuously objected to British requests to lay a minefield across the entrance to the Baltic Sea. They also refused to allow Allied French and British troops to land on Norwegian soil. For more than a month, the Allies negotiated with the Norwegians, all the while making plans to deploy minefields